Welcome to Pinsar Basketball. The Dallas Mavericks cannot close out the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we do not have back to back sweeps in the Eastern and Western Conference finals. Some people forget that we were on the verge of an Eastern Conference and Western Conference sweep last year when Denver swept in the Western Conference finals, and Miami was on the verge of sweeping Boston in the Eastern Conference finals. Of course, in that case, the Boston Celtics won game four, they won game five, they won game six, and perhaps had Jason Tatum not tweaked his ankle in game seven, we might have had the first ever comeback from down 3-0. Are we about to witness history? Are we about to witness the Minnesota Timberwolves come back from down 3-0? No. No. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's about to happen. So, to completely be transparent, the Dallas Mavericks did not play a great game tonight. There's a lot to break down. I made notes. I made 5 pages of notes on this game. This is a habit that I'm getting into that I want to extend forward as we go into the Raptors season next year. I want to become to to the best of my ability, I want to become the best analyst that I can be. I don't want to put any, qualifiers on it and say I want to be the best analyst in the world or anything like that. But I want to be able to say things about the game and see things within the game in real time. Of course, with the benefit of pause, rewind a little bit. I want to have that ability to know that if you're listening to me talking about the game after the game, that you are getting the most intelligent, most comprehensive, and most unbiased coverage. And I'm going to work towards that um, as hard as I can. So let's start tonight. Um, the shot that was the and one. Luka Doncic, the Dallas Mavericks are on the ropes, and then Luka Doncic, hits that 3-point play, a 4-point potential 4-point play, misses the free throw. I don't necessarily think it would have made much of a difference, but certainly would have added to the craziness that was this game. There's a lot to talk about in this game. Specifically, this was the best Anthony Edwards, Karl Towns game that we've seen. A couple notes that I made on this were that there was a big adjustment coming into the game where Karl Towns and Jaden McDaniels effectively swapped assignments. Karl Towns takes the assignment of Luka Doncic because, frankly, Jaden McDaniels had been a little ineffective. He's just kind of putting him on his hip and throwing him out of the play. And they thought to themselves, hey, it might be better if Jaden McDaniels can offer a little bit of help, maybe be a rover, or if he can just be that pesky sort of defender on Kyrie Irving, maybe he'll have a better chance stopping Kyrie Irving. The logic on this makes sense from Chris Finch and the Minnesota side because if one guy, he is your best perimeter defender, bar none. Jaden McDaniels is the best perimeter defender on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And if he can't really stop his assignment, he's not really doing what he could be doing on the other guy. And Kyrie has been very effective throughout this series, starting from game one, where he broke the mold and was assertive throughout the game. And I just don't think, despite Anthony Edwards' bravado at the end of the previous series about, oh, I got Kyrie Irving, I felt even when he said it then, this might be a really bad matchup for Kyrie Irving. Sorry, this might be a really bad matchup for Anthony Edwards. So that was a really good switch. I don't necessarily think that Anthony Edwards is a good matchup for Luka Doncic, but I also don't think that he's a good matchup for Kyrie Irving. I do think, however, that Jaden McDaniels might find a lot of success on Kyrie Irving, and it started tonight. Kyrie had a pretty bad game. So in that sense, it does work out because if you can't stop both, at least you can try to stop one. So it makes some sense. Dallas has been winning the half court battle, in terms of half court efficiency pretty much the entire season against whoever they play. And Minnesota entered the playoffs as not a very good half court offense. A lot of Minnesota's offense comes off of their defense, off of run out opportunities, turnovers that they force and cough up, offensive rebounds because they're so big inside. But they're not a very efficient half court team because, frankly, they don't have any one of those top 5, top 7, top 8 offensive players. If Anthony Edwards is in that range for you, it is only because he has entered that range in the last month. He wasn't that coming into this playoff series, and he certainly hasn't been that in this series. So tonight, that sort of flipped. So the very bad half-court offense actually was quite good. They scored 98 points per 100 half-court possessions, and the Dallas Mavericks, who are really good in the half-court, they scored only 86. Now, it's easy to jump the gun and say, uh-oh, here comes, the battled Timberwolves, like that great defense is going to just come up and it's going to kill the Mavericks. I think this was just a really poor shooting night for the Dallas Mavericks. Okay. We saw in and out. Shooting variance is real. That's why we play 7 games. I know a lot of people are going to overreact. I hope they don't, but I think some people might. I very much expected the Dallas Mavericks would lose tonight. I really did not think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to come out here and allow themselves to get swept. I'm actually not even completely sure Dallas is going to deliver the knockout punch in game 5, but I am pretty sure that game 6 is stamped Dallas. Dallas is not losing game 6. So this series either ends in 5 for Dallas or it ends in 6 for Dallas. If it goes to 7, I actually would favor the Minnesota Timberwolves at home. So that is very scary times for the Dallas Mavericks. They better approach next game with urgency. Kyrie Irving said prior to the game, this is another game for us. This is their Super Bowl. It felt like it. So, um, largely, I think their half court efficiency battle was fueled by jump shot making versus jump shot misses, right? So, Karl Anthony Towns, he makes 5. Debatably, I was looking at the shot chart. It might have been 6, but it's 5 jump shots. Anthony Edwards made 7 jumpers, right? Kyrie and Luka combined for 6. So that's really like that's the game, right? You're talking a 5-point game. You're talking about winning on the margins, but it really should have been more, shouldn't it? I mean, Minnesota also won the battle in the paint, 46-36. So that is like really, and it started with Carl. It started with Anthony Edwards just attacking downhill. I think he had 8 free throw attempts in the first quarter. He finished the game 5 for 8 from the free throw line. So he got all his free throw attempts right in the first quarter. He was very clear. I'm coming into the paint. And I think that it created a lot of shifting. The other thing that obviously we had Scott Foster in the game tonight. He has earned his reputation as the extender. That is literally his nickname. I guarantee you, if you Google NBA referee extender, just Google that. You'll see a picture of Scott Foster, and that is not a joke. That is literal. I just tried it. He's developed a reputation as, the guy that the NBA kind of brings in when, they have a series 3-0 or 3-1, and they just want it to go a little bit longer. Look, this is good business, okay? And you can't just outright rig a game, but you can officiate it in a way that favors one team over another. They really let this team play very physically. I mean, Jaden McDaniels was allowed to get away with murder in the first quarter on Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. And frankly, it threw the Mavericks off rhythm. And basketball is a game of rhythm. And when you're starting to get bumped off your spots, and you could see Luka getting really frustrated in that first quarter, and they backed off. They started calling fouls, and then when they started calling fouls, it kind of reversed. And suddenly we saw Minnesota getting into a whole bunch of foul trouble because they had gotten used to playing a certain way. But the refs almost made sure that they put Kyrie and Luka on ice, and then they started calling the game, I think, a little bit more fairly. This felt like a game that the NBA just simply wanted to extend. I don't know. Yesterday, I believe in the live, we were pontificating whether if this was a sweep, if the NBA would have that 7-day lag between, the conference finals and the NBA finals. Maybe they can't move it up. Maybe they need to fill this slot, and Indiana was just not going to be the team that is going to extend that series. So they're going to have this thing go to 6. But I'll tell you, regardless of how it's officiated in game 6, I trust that Luka and Kyrie will close that series out in 6. Let's move on to some of the bigger things. Okay, because I don't want to avoid talking too much, let's go to Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards. Then we'll go to the box score stuff. Then we'll go to Luka Doncic. How's that for a little bit of ping pong here? I'm just going to give a shout out here to Anthony Edwards for wearing a Malcolm X shirt. That's pretty cool. Also, Troy Knights with the very apt point here. Kyrie's 0-14 in closeout game stat is done. He is now 1-14. You are correct.
About your offense, can you tell us what you saw? His kind of game sealing pull-up jumper.
Man, when I was on the bench, I had a front row seat to watch it, when I fouled out. And I'm watching, and I can see the play developing, and I'm seeing Ange just kind of, in a way, I feel like he was visualizing that make, and he got to exactly the spot he wanted to. I see the work he puts in. I knew at that spot, if he gets over to his right hand with that pull-up, it's going to be cash. And if he was any more right of the court, I would have been a little mad if he would have went for the backboard, but he went for the straight in shot, and it was cash. So, like I said, I'm honored to be playing with my brother here and seeing him every day put the work in. And I knew when he got to that spot, it was a high likelihood he was going to make that.
And last game, you said, you got a lot of good looks, but when the shots weren't falling, it was easier for them to crowd the paint. When Kat's hitting those shots and Jaden and Nikhil, what does that mean for your team and the spacing as you're driving into?
It means I can operate. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. When these guys knocking down shots, it's like a pride thing when your man scores, whether you supposed to be in the gap or not, you don't want him to keep scoring. So if these guys hit shots, the gap's gonna get more open and more open and more open. And late in that fourth, because Kat and Jaden was knocking them down, I was able to just get anywhere I wanted. And whether I miss it or make it, I can live with that. And I haven't been doing that the last 3 games of this series. I've been going to the corner and not shooting the ball and not being aggressive. And, that won't happen anymore. Anytime late in the fourth, I'm going to shoot it every time.
Prior to game 3, you mentioned you wanted to get back to the joy of the game of basketball. Do you feel like these last 2 games you've been able to do that?
I feel like last game I did it early, and then as the game kept going, my emotions, the emotional part of the game, my joy started to, fall away. I think tonight, the entire game, I didn't let anything bother me. My joy was there the entire time. And big shout out to my college coach, man. He always texts me, Coach Crean, and tell me, man, play with joy. That's when you're playing at your best. And he made sure he texted me that before the game at halftime today.
With the college coach, how much of your foundation in your hometown and just your family do you take on the court with you every night?
Every night, man. That's why I play with so much joy. Anytime I'm around my family, we have a good time. Always, it's never a dull moment. Laughing, joking, all type of things like that. Even with my teammates, man, we always having a great time. So, we just try to carry that over to the court.
Karl, how do you see your guys' defense as a team kind of growing or progressing throughout the series?
I just love the aggression we played with today. You could tell that we had that desperation that makes us special. I talked about it in shoot around, just that desperation, playing with so much energy on defense, making those rotations and the plays needed to win. And, the numbers speak for themselves. We showed up defensively tonight against a really great team and did the things we needed to do to win a game, especially on the road.
Mike Conley is over here, y'all. Y'all got any questions for Mike? Y'all want to ask me about Mike? Nobody want to ask me about Mike? Bye.
How about Mike, especially in the first half? It seemed like he really
is old as and he was getting downhill, laying the ball up. So shout out to Bite, and he coming in here with these clown pants on. So y'all about to see him in a minute, but that's my OG, that's my point guard. He played great tonight, and I couldn't ask nothing more from him. So thank you, Mike Conley.
Hey, Karl, what does just getting 1 mean to you? Just to get on the board here and extend the series.
We get another chance to get another one. Pretty simple.
What do you say to what do you say at the end of the game?
I think we was talking about the N1. Yeah, I think that's what we was talking about. It was just, it was crazy.
And you told somebody in the hallway you were seeing for game 6. Where does that confidence come from?
What am I supposed to say? I'm supposed to say we're gonna lose game 5? No, I'm not gonna never say that. Michael Parsons, he was rocking the AE1s, and I told him he wears size 14. I'll bring back some nice shoes for game 6. That's what I told him. Here goes my Conley, y'all.
You know what? He said the same thing to someone in Denver after game 5. He said, I'll see y'all here for game 7. And he did. I got to tell you something. I'm almost like 90% sure they will come back for your game 6. I'm pretty sure it's going to end there because it's really hard to come back for a 3-zip. But man, the title of this live is, can Minnesota become the first team in NBA history to beat the 0-3 curse? And the actual answer is hell yes. They are the team. They are a team, but they are the team that can do it. Unfortunately, I don't think that Dallas is the team that is going to let that happen. You know what I mean? So yeah, if Dallas lets it happen, if Derek Lively's injury continues on, if that you know, if Maxi Kleber can't punish some of those drop coverages with his jump shot, getting a little bit more comfortable, yeah, this could be a dogfight, right? And we could be thinking about, holy shit, like, you know, what I mean, legacy wise, you got to think about it. Kyrie Irving comes into tonight 14-0 in closeout games, right? He could, in theory, end this playoff series 14-4. He's 1-4, he's 14-0, right? So 14-0, 14-1 now, 14-2, 14-3, 14-4. I mean, shit. It's tough, right? So um Lively is back for the 5, so Wolves are in big trouble. He very well might be. But they need him at full health. If that neck is still bothering him, if that's going to cramp up on him or whatever, that'll be tough. Okay, let's take a little look at the game flow. I mean, this game was pretty connected. You know, Minnesota, went on this massive run. You know, when Dallas could not really score in the first quarter, and Dallas was just stuck on 12 points for a while, right? And they finally broke through on a pair of threes. One was by Jaden Hardy. One was by Green. So, I mean, it's interesting how often Green, Hardy, Jones Jr., guys like this, and when you look at what those guys make in terms of money combined, they don't even make $10 million combined between the three of them. Add in Exum, who went on a little 5-0 run himself. So that's a really, really big thing that the Dallas Mavericks kind of wasted today, which is, yeah, Luka and Kyrie didn't have a great game at all. And that's putting it very politely. But your role players actually did show up. I mean, even Daniel Gafford, who had a really quiet first half, 2 points, he goes off for a really big, second half where he's diving to the rim, blocking shots, etc. Let's take a look at the box score here. Luka's night really was pretty bad. He's 7 for 21 from the field. Kyrie Irving, same percentage, right? They both shoot 33.3% from the field. Kyrie Irving adds insult to injury, going 1 for 6 from 3. With Luka, it really is a lot worse than it looked. He just had a couple of looks that just didn't quite go in. With Kyrie, it's about as bad as it looked, right? Like the box score is reflective of what really was. Kyrie had 4 assists and 4 turnovers. Like that's just unexcusable and inexcusable. And frankly, he's going to have a much better game in game 6. In game 5, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here with game 6 talk. But yeah, I mean, they got really valuable contributions off the bench. Big shout outs to Jaden Hardy, who had 13 points, including like some really, really big plays. Huge dunk, I believe. It was like down the stretch, like he was talking shit to Anthony Edwards. Like I think he might have, maybe poked the bear a little bit because Anthony Edwards kind of like woke up after that. If you remember, like there was a long stretch of time where Anthony Edwards just was not scoring. And then suddenly, Jaden Hardy gets into him a little bit. And I think that kind of coincided with Anthony Edwards waking up a little bit. But let's talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. As much as I'd like to say that the Dallas Mavericks shooting variance and, just general poor shooting nights from Kyrie and Luka led to this win, I do think that the Minnesota Timberwolves did a lot of good things. So number one, let's start with Anthony Edwards. Getting into the paint at will in the first quarter, kind of setting his teammates up, making sure everyone had a chance to touch the leather, making sure everyone's in rhythm, and then, sort of settling back, not forcing things too much. There was a play where I believe Mike Conley finds him in the corner. He's wide open. He pump fakes PJ Washington. He gets past his guy. He's thinking about taking a pull-up jumper, but he's not comfortable with it, and he throws it to Jaden Hardy, who then tries to, save it out of bounds, and then it goes out of bounds. And it's just like Reggie Miller screaming on the podcast, on the broadcast, like, "No, you got to shoot that." And it's like, yes, you do have to shoot that. He was just indecisive at times in the second and third quarter, but he picked it up in the fourth. Let's talk about Karl Towns. This entire series, he's been trying to attack PJ Washington like it's a mismatch. And PJ Washington is not the greatest defender, but it's not a mismatch. Like he's big enough and quick enough and long enough to bother Karl Anthony Towns on these ISO drives that Cat keeps going at. And at some point, it's just immaturity and ego for Karl Anthony Towns to keep attacking that matchup. And also, like he's had some issues finishing over length in the paint. Now, it kind of helped today that one half of the Twin Towers was not there for the Dallas Mavericks. And so Karl Anthony Towns did get challenged a couple times at the rim by Daniel Gafford. And then he just kind of learned to go the other way. And it was a smart move. So a lot of what Karl Anthony Towns did was off-ball movement, coming off of screens, relocating, finding jumpers. His shot quality was insane tonight. It was great. And he was a really, really big part. I mean, despite the fact that he picked up a lot of boneheaded fouls, he had 4 turnovers. He fouls out of the game. I mean, he was a plus 15, and you felt it. You felt it. Anthony Edwards said he was our best player. I don't know about that, but he was certainly your second best player at the very least. Mike Conley was great. Jaden McDaniels, like just the ball pressure on Kyrie in terms of just making him uncomfortable. I thought he was great tonight. Rudy Gobert, just really tough, tough defensive game. I think he, communicated well. He did get lost a couple of times. Not gonna lie, I didn't love this game for Rudy, but it was competent. He also battled foul trouble all night. And Kyle Anderson, Kyle Anderson and Naz Reid are such a luxury, for Chris Finch and that coaching staff, where you have 2 guys who can realistically, they can close a game for you easy peasy, and you're not going to be at a disadvantage because those guys are closing games, because they're better than guys that the Mavericks start permanently. Like as basketball players, like they're better. Like Kyle Anderson and Naz Reid are certainly on the level of PJ Washington. And what great depth that you could go to your bench and have guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Naz Reid, and Kyle Anderson being able to come off your bench. It's almost like Minnesota plays like 8 starters. You know what I mean? I'm not like quite sure I'm there yet on Naz Reid, but I mean, sorry, on Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but like Kyle Anderson and Naz Reid have starter level impact and starter level intelligence and starter level, qualities. And, part of it was, hey, like we're facing some foul trouble with Karl Anthony Towns. And, they brought him back with 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter because he was really on a hot streak, and you don't want to cool off your, hottest player. But at the same time, you probably don't make that decision if what's behind him isn't something you can close the game out with. And Naz Reid provides them with that luxury where, yeah, you can close out the game. Let's take a look at some of the notes here. So in terms of like game summary, I mean, to summarize this entire thing, I would say a lot of it came down to shooting variance. There's a lot of shots that Luka would typically hit. I think there was a shot at 102, 105 where he takes a 3 and it's almost wide open, right? A lot of mistakes in the Dallas Mavericks, a lot of mistakes in the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I just feel like if we play this game again and the ball just bounces a little bit different, I'll say this, given how badly Minnesota outshot Dallas from the field and from the 3, they beat them by over 10% on both. They made more jumpers. They had a higher half court efficiency. They won the points in the paint battle. The fact that this was still a game with 1 minute to go tells me the gap between these two teams. Maxi Kleber, steps in. We had a Dwight Powell sighting. 3 straight plays. The Dallas Mavericks, put Dwight Powell out there, I believe, in the first quarter. And, 3 straight plays. Minnesota just spams it. You cannot have mistakes like this. You saw it in the last game. He's unplayable. Jason Kidd goes back to it tonight, and he's unplayable. I don't think we saw him for the rest of the game. Maxi Kleber, coming off that shoulder injury, looks a little uncomfortable shooting the basketball, but he's still like a really good defender. His hip mobility and switchability on some of these, picks, like it may not be the most relevant thing. He's probably your best matchup for Karl Anthony Towns, frankly, but I think PJ Washington has been doing a great job there. So really that rim deterrence is just not there with Maxi Kleber, right? And that's the trade-off, right? You don't have that prototypical drop big on the court when you put Maxi Kleber out there. He does other things well, but it might just be too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, because when Maxi Kleber is on the court, too often we found Luka being the low man in the defense. The other thing that I think is worth noting is, it took a really long time for Minnesota to really start punishing Luka, and forcing him to guard. I mean, this is a guy, the broadcast crew, Stan Van Gundy, Reggie Miller, et cetera, they were harping about this all night where, why are you not putting Luka in positions? And I think it's because the Dallas Mavericks have intelligently hid Luka on I think they hit him on Jaden McDaniels. And so, Dallas Mavericks are like, hey, you want to run your offense through Jaden McDaniels? That's great. In fact, there was a play down the stretch, I believe in the fourth quarter, where Luka's guarding Rudy Gobert in the fourth quarter in the post, and they throw it to Rudy, like mouse in the house, thinking like Rudy Gobert is going to do something. Luka fouls him. Rudy Gobert misses both free throws. Look, man, if you're going to run your offense through, Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert, I think the Dallas Mavericks will live with that, right? Because I don't think that that's efficient offense, and that's going to go away from your principles. And sometimes that's really what teams like to do when you have Rudy Gobert on your team, because they don't find him to be an overly gifted playmaker and not an overly skilled basketball player in the post. He's not a great post player. He's just not. And this is something that I think, teams will find with someone like Zach Edey, in the draft. He's a good role man. He can catch some lobs and he can, make some open layups and stuff. And, he can roll off the pick and, he can be a finisher on the pick and roll. But you don't want to be throwing the ball to Zach Edey because the other team's guarding him with a wing and just saying, okay, go do something with it. Because very often that's going to result in, poor free throw shooting, or it's going to result in you disrupting your own offensive rhythm, or it's going to result in a turnover, or it's going to result in a missed shot. And yeah, in theory, it's what we call low hanging fruit. It's taking the bait, right? So suddenly now you're going back to back to back possessions to Zach Edey post ups, and it's never going to be efficient enough for the other team because the other team is just spamming threes, on the other end. It also is great for another team defensively in terms of court balance when your big has to come and run all 90 feet, 94 feet of the basketball court back and forth, which is why stretch bigs have an advantage. Anyways, that's a conversation for another day. So Maxi Kleber is going to have to float in this series. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we see, if everything's good with Derek Lively, if some point we see Derek Lively and Maxi Kleber both ahead of Daniel Gafford in the rotation. Gafford is useful. He can be schemed out. He does have serious limitations. He played through some of them tonight. I think he is the worst of those three, in my opinion. It just so happens that against Minnesota, he's really, really impactful, but wouldn't be completely sure if that's necessarily going to be the game plan against Boston. We'll see. We'll see if we even get there. This was not a great game for Minnesota. They just shot really well, and the Mavericks couldn't make a shot. So, it's a 10.7% field goal advantage, 10.8% three-point advantage, and it's not a blowout win. Silly turnovers, a lot of, self-inflicted stuff by the Dallas Mavericks, and just a lot of makeable shots that they missed. It happens. Let's see here. I think Kyle Anderson was the hero of the night for me in terms of just guys who deserve a lot of credit. I think some of his screen navigation, his defensive communication, some of his help defense, and just generally speaking, his screen setting was really, really good. He is just an underrated player who does all the little things to help you win. There's another note that I would make about tonight's game where, with Kyrie sort of having a tough night, typically the way the Dallas Mavericks like to operate is Luka starts a playmaking possession, Kyrie becomes a secondary playmaker, and then, usually you can throw it into Derek Lively as a tertiary playmaker. And of course, I'm going to get demonetized because this stupid ESPN decided to show this entire highlight package. I can't believe that happened. And I can't believe I didn't see it. Great. Just lost all the money for this live. Great. Fuck. Well, they are ESPN. They have every right to do that. I just should have seen it. My bad. Okay. So, long story short, Paradise Lost saying YouTube sucks. Yeah, YouTube does suck sometimes, but nevertheless, it is fair, I guess. But yes, that little snippet. Sorry, I'm not sure what conversation is going on here in the chat. I wasn't looking at the chat, but anyways, let me get back to my notes here for a second. God, where the hell was I here? Yeah, so in terms of Kyle Anderson, I thought he had a great game, and in terms of the Dallas Mavericks, like yeah, so I was saying like how the Dallas Mavericks offense operates with Luka as a primary, and then Kyrie Irving as an audible secondary, and then typically you'll have this tertiary playmaking load that falls on the rolling big, right? And specifically, it may occasionally fall on Derrick Jones Jr., Dante Exum, Jaden Hardy, Green, Josh Green. It could occasionally also fall on Daniel Gafford or somebody like that. But typically, the guy who's done the best in that role, in my opinion, is Derek Lively. He's just been so great. So you just it's a constant game of like jamming buttons, in the offense, in the defense, and just finding something right. And because of how great Lively is moving without the basketball, setting solid screens, and making that short roll pass out to the corner and making these on target passes, it really does, exacerbate some of the playmaking advantages that Dallas has in this series over the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are already at a bit of a playmaking deficit because Cat is not a great playmaker, and he was tonight. I'll give him that. That was a huge part of his game tonight. And Karl, and Anthony Edwards, to his detriment right now, is not the greatest of playmakers either. So it's really Mike Conley and Kyle Anderson who are your table setters for that offense. And sometimes they aren't on the court, and it's tough to get yourself organized. One of those two guys um, always has to be on the court. So I think losing Derek Lively, that role falls on somebody else. And tonight, I think Derek Jones Jr. did a great job of this, right? So it's all about noticing those small things. Derek Jones, how many times did you see Derek Jones receive a pass and then immediately get rid of it, and like it was on target, and the guy just missed it? I mean, he had 4 assists tonight. He could have easily had 7, 8. So I thought he was great. I thought he was great. And I just think that Derek Lively is so important to this team. I said it in the last live when he went out, like Godspeed Derek Lively. And I think tonight you really, really felt, I think you felt him. And, you lose this game by 5. If you're, if you're Jason Kidd and, you go into game 5, you lose game 5, you come back to game 6 and you're in a tight game, that mind might start to wander, right? Of like, hey, did we play around with our food a little bit here? Did we do that Boston Celtic thing where maybe we took a chance rolling the dice with Dwight Powell for what was it, like 2 minutes or 3 minutes that he was on the court? But man, he was severely compromised in those 2 to 3 minutes that he was on the court, right? Let me see what was his plus minus tonight. He was -4 in 3 minutes, right? You lose this game by 5. And it's like he came on the court like during a time when pretty much your entire offensive woes started. And I don't think you really caught up. From that point on, it was pretty consistent. Like Minnesota was favored to win this game for a really long time after that. Let me just take a look at this for a second here. Show you what I mean here. Win probability. Here we go. So this is Dallas's game. And the game pretty much flipped. Dwight Powell, bad pass, first quarter, right? So that entire stretch, that's Dwight Powell. Dwight Powell came out within 3 minutes, but it didn't matter. Like the damage was done. Momentum shifts fast, and it never really got back into Dallas's hands. It got back here. Luka makes a free throw, and then suddenly, you're seeing like. But again, it just felt like you didn't get that disconnection, right? And then it was just boom, boom, boom. It was Minnesota game. Minnesota led for the majority of this game. They had the largest lead in this game. And I do believe that it really started with Dwight Powell coming on the court. So I hope that, Jason Kidd makes that adjustment and Dwight Powell does not see a single second, because quite frankly, they could have easily lost last game because of that same mistake. And they make it again in this game. So really costly. Okay, let's go to Luka Doncic, and that'll be the end of this. Bro, what is with this audio? Shit. And Luka looks haunted.
Great. I just told him, keep going. When you open, shoot the ball. When they close out to you, drive it like you do, and just hoop. Yeah, it's fine. We won 3 games. It's first, like I said, it's first to 4. No matter if you win in 4 or in 7, right? You just got to win 4.
Do you feel Carl Anthony finally kind of broke out of his slump? Did he do anything differently to kind of thwart your defense, or did he just finally just start making shots?
No, yeah, I think there was 2 big threes for them. When we were up 1, hit 2 big threes. So that was really clutch. So we got to do a better job on him.
Luka, from star to star, watching Anthony today, what do you think about his effort in a must-win game for them?
Yeah, great effort. He played amazing. He's an amazing player, so he's going to play great.
Luka, what's the mindset going to Minnesota?
We got to win 4 games. What mindset? We got to win 1 more game, that's it.
Bro, I mean, I might pick the Timberwolves to win game 5, but he's not going to give it to them. I'll tell you that. Also, there was a debate going on in the chat here, Anthony Edwards versus Kyrie Irving, and Jordan thinks like it's crazy to have this debate. Oh my God. It's not that crazy at all. It's not that crazy at all. You can say one guy's more polished, more refined, more skilled, but impact is much more than just skill and polish. Okay, let's get to Kyrie Irving, and then we will call it a night.
Kyrie, obviously a chance to close it out tonight at home. Just what stands out from a loss like this, in your opinion?
What stands out is just our competitive spirit, especially throughout the game. That first quarter, we only scored 20 points, gave up 27. It's uncharacteristic like for us to kind of be in that type of battle in the first quarter. We usually like to keep the game pretty close, even though, later in the game we caught up. But how I started off in particular the game with a few turnovers, and, if I'm setting the example like that, then other guys are going to follow suit, unfortunately, at times. And, it just leads to just that lackadaisical play. So that's on me, taking accountability. I got to start off the game a lot better and just get a shot up at the rim instead of turning the ball over. So I think, starting off the game, we just weren't in a great rhythm as of yet. We picked it up in the second half a little bit more. But yeah, just a few costly turnovers and, some miscommunications on the defensive end during some crucial times in the game. Felt like that was the difference tonight,
Kyrie, is, with obviously the chance to close out the series, how much, is there disappointment? Is that the right emotion to take from a game like this, disappointment?
Yeah, we're human. I mean, we go out there and try to win. So, we come in here with the right mentality, right preparation. We feel like we put ourselves in a great position to win the basketball game. We obviously fell short. We failed at that. But there are still some positives that we can take moving forward. And like I said to the previous question, just a few timely shots that they hit in that fourth quarter and that third quarter where it was some miscommunication. We just got to be better. And a few breakdowns in that first half, too. Mike Conley getting to the rim for open layups and just breakdowns happening. And, the game is within balance, and we're trying to break the lead open a little bit more. We got to do it, how we've been doing it majority of the second half of the season. That's on the defensive end. The offensive end is going to take care of itself at times. We're going to make or miss shots. But defensively, that's where we have to make our presence be felt. And I think it also starts in terms of matching their physicality or overpowering their physicality in the beginning of the game. It was a very physical game. Calls were going back and forth. So, yeah, there is a level of disappointment. That's a human emotion, but also just a natural reflection of just how we can play better moving forward and just, wash our hands with this one. They got a win. They're a great team. I've been saying it all series. So we expect them to do the same thing when in Minnesota, just coming out with that physicality, playing to their home crowd and making things difficult on me and Luka.
And then when you and Luka both have abnormal shooting nights, is it something where you look at it and it's a desire to get better shots for you guys, or is it just, it's baked into the game plan that you guys hit tough shots and that's what you have to, the adjustment is just making more of those tough shots?
I mean, we're in the NBA, man. I don't think, no team's going to lay down and just give me and Luka open shots. So, I think, when I look at just the quality of our shots, I think a few of them could be better. A few of them were rushed. A few of them were in and out, especially in, when the game is in the balance. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm thinking about all the plays where it could have gone either way. But, yeah, it just takes a higher level of focus and also just understanding that we have to run the plays that work and we have to continue to pick on the other guys that we want to see guarding us and just continue to feed each other confidence and continue to trust our teammates. Good things happen when you just consistently just turn to the next play. And that's what me and Luka have done, and I think he can speak for himself too, but we've seen it. We're just on to the next play, and down the stretch, we just got to stay together, and when the game is getting close, just go to our plays and make sure we're ready to knock down shots and be decisive. A few times I got in the lane, I was indecisive. I turned the ball over late. So a lot of this is on me, just being able to start the game well and then also finish the game well. We had spurts. I had spurts, but I got to put a full 48 minutes game together with my teammates and be better for them.
Kyrie, if you don't mind sharing, was there anything you told the players in the locker room, the younger players who maybe wanted to close out tonight and celebrate?
You said, what do I tell them?
Yeah, did you say anything to the younger players?
No, it's not my place right now to tell them anything. I just allow them to feel the emotions like I'm feeling it, be human, go home, and then get a great night's rest and come to the, practice facility tomorrow. I'll be ready to watch film, consistently get better. I mean, we've been putting one foot in front of the other all season. So, a loss like this, it definitely stings. It definitely hurts. And, like I said to that question, it's a level of disappointment. But this is part of the competitive side of basketball, too. You win some and you lose some. And we would have loved to close out on our home floor. Sorry, fans. Didn't happen. I think, moving forward, now we know. This is just us getting to know one another in stressful environments like this. First time closing out to go to the NBA Finals. It's a new thing for us. So I like to err on the side of just giving us grace. And, I'll take all the pressure that comes with this, and I'm used to it. So
they came out with McDaniels as the primary defender on you for the first time this series. What, if any, impact do you think that had?
I mean, it has a huge impact, Tim. I mean, he's a 6'9" wing defender that I'm seeing now for the first time from the start of the game. So it's going to be an adjustment. But I love it. I relish in these type of opportunities. It's not the first time I've gone against a taller defender. So, we're going to have our battles, but I don't want to make it a one-on-one battle between me and Jaden. I got to be smart on the offensive end and defensively just be in the right positions to create some mismatches on the other end when we get stops. So.
And the first thing Luka said when he came in here was that this game's on him. He said he didn't play with enough energy. What do you think of him feeling like this one was on him?
I mean, he's not alone in this. I expect him to say something like that, especially knowing how much he cares and how much he wants to win and how much he wants to lead our group. So I expect nothing less. I think you heard me too, just say that it's on me, and that's what you're supposed to hear from your leaders of your team. We know that we didn't play with the best energy or, we didn't create enough opportunities for us to get easy baskets enough. And, just got to take the hit on the chin, man. It's not the first time we've been hit. So it's just competitive sports. It's what makes it great.
Kyrie, you guys probably figured that Karl Anthony was due to have a good game. And it looked like he was making concerted effort to put his head down, get to the basket. Why do you think he was, in general, more effective tonight?
I mean, despite the criticism that he's received, the unfair criticism at times, even though he's not shooting the ball particularly well or he didn't shoot for the first 3 games, he's a great player. I respect him. I know my peers respect him and my teammates respect him. So, some of the shots that he was hitting tonight, he missed in the first 3 games. And, he was getting to the rim, but we had bigs there, contesting his shot. So it was a little bit tougher. But, there were, again, in the fourth quarter and looking back at some of those plays that he took advantage of, it was top of the key. They were running the same play. And then also some flare screens where he was the catch and shoot recipient. So we just got to be aware of him, where he's moving on the floor. He's trying to hide behind the defense and get some easy ones. So, that's what great players do. They figure it out, and it's a series. It's a small season series. So I expected him to at least come out with the aggression. to put his team in a great position to win the ball game, and he did. So he accomplished that, and now we move forward.
Kyrie, you've seen a lot of great players in big moments over the years. Anthony Edwards comes out. They need to win this game, obviously. Just want to get your thoughts on his effort tonight, leading them to the win.
I mean, he's been pretty consistent just in terms of coming at us and having a no-fear mentality like I talked about before, but also he's very confident in himself. And, if I'm on that other side, I don't want to lose either. So that's usually when great players go deep into their bag. They, start bringing out things that they know that they're great at to adjust to what the defense is throwing at them. And if they convert, they convert. But he's going to keep firing away. So we just got to be prepared to show him bodies and, make it tough on him.
Kyrie, despite the loss, what are some positive areas within this game that you would like to take to the next game?
I just feel like we have a consistent fight about us. I mean, it doesn't matter what lead we're dealing with or if another team has a lead on us. We always feel like we're in a position to win the basketball game. I think tonight, some of those shots that Cat was hitting took the wind out of our sails. And Anthony got down, got a few easy layups, a few pull-ups. And then when we went down 6, I just feel like we stopped pushing the ball a little bit, and that starts with me. I just got to continue to keep my pace up and get into the lane and finish my shots that I have on Rudy. Those are things that I'm going to correct moving forward, but I just got to stay aggressive. And for our team's sake, we just have to consistently do the little things where we affirm each other in every huddle that we're okay, and coming out tonight, we felt like we were okay, but you can tell there was an emotional fatigue of fans and us, and everybody was pressured, and, it's a new space. So now we just got to deal with this loss and get ready for Minnesota and enjoy that ride there, man, because it's going to be hostile.
All right. Let me just address this as maturely as I possibly can. Okay. First of all, Jordan Lalonde in the chat here, I'm going to take less than a minute to try to address this. When you say that somebody obviously watches cricket or imply that somebody watches cricket because their name is Tariq, if that person is offended and then somebody calls you racist because of that, don't then bait that on. You kind of brought that on yourself. And I told you right when you said that to chill because the implications there are pretty weird. Secondly, can everyone on this in the chat please stop piling on the guy because he said that. Are you kidding me? Bro, what are you talking about? I swear to God I said chill. Ha, with a name like Tariq, you're telling me to watch cricket. Do you understand the problem there? He said go watch cricket because he's implying that you don't understand basketball. You're implying that he watches cricket because his name is Tariq, and you're making it very clear. You could have just, I don't know, if you wanted to be kind of covert about it, you could have said, why don't you go watch cricket? But no, you said with a name like Tariq. Like, we're not stupid. We can read here. And I'm not trying to pile on you. And I'm actually asking the chat to stop piling on you. But please, I say this as somebody who has spent many, many hours wasting my life going back at people in the comments. I don't do it anymore, by the way. If you haven't noticed, I don't respond to negative comments. I don't take the bait. Why? Because life is short, man. Life is really fucking short. You could die tomorrow. You really want your last life, your last night on earth to be spent battling with whether or not you might be racist to some random person you're never going to meet? Nobody cares. Okay. I certainly don't care. Just keep that shit out of here. If you're going to make a notion of somebody's name being certain thing and that person's name is very ethnically, I know the implication of, the name being Tariq is like the guy's brown or whatever. So, and he may not even be brown. He could be black. And in which case you sound like an absolute idiot anyways. My point is, it gets a little personal when you start saying with a name like or with, any of that stuff. Anyways, I would like to stop talking about this. I think that'd be a great place to exit this live. I have spent way too much time reacting to chats and, frankly, I shouldn't. So anyways, this is a great game to watch. Really interesting. I did walk in picking Minnesota to win this game. For whatever reason, I just felt like they were due for one. And frankly, if Derek Lively was playing, I wouldn't have picked Minnesota. I would have picked Dallas. That's how high I am on Derek Lively. And, I say it again, Godspeed Derek Lively. I hope he comes back really soon. Obviously, I think the Dallas Mavericks have the better shot against the Boston Celtics in the finals. I want to see competitive basketball. I hope this format of me taking a little bit longer to make notes and having a more detailed analysis is something that you guys appreciate. If you do appreciate it, please, hit like, hit subscribe, comment on this video. Make sure more people get out there, right? Make sure that this video gets out to more people. Share it, put it on social media, whatever. I like that we've built this kind of like 1 a.m. community of people that just kind of congregate after the game and, chill and talk and whatever. Let's try to keep that community peaceful. That would be awesome too. Okay. Again, calling the guy slow does not de-escalate the situation. It only makes it worse. Okay. Like, I don't understand why people sometimes egg on controversy. It's like, I don't know how small your world is. I don't know how boring your life is. But we're here to talk hoops. We're not here to dissect random people on the internet's personality who are probably just 12-year-olds in their mom's basement. Okay? Just chill. All right. Some more draft stuff in the next couple weeks, Rob. Yes, sir. We will get to that. My mind has been so absorbed. You all know me well enough to know at this point that I pretty much go as my mind goes. Like, I follow my passions. I'm not really the most consistent content creator. I sometimes take a month, where I drop barely anything, and then suddenly I'm like doing lives every single day. I do go a little bit more ebbs and flows, and maybe that's not the greatest thing for content creation, but it is the best thing for me in terms of just my mental health, my peace. So I do pursue what I find to be meaningful, and what I find to be meaningful right now is watching the best hoops possible, which is, the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs have been great so far. When it was watching the women's game, on the NCAA side, that's what I was watching. When I was watching, March Madness, that's what I was watching. I'm just treating this year as a Rob incubator for my mind, right? Because truthfully, coming into this year, I have to get really real with myself. I think I understand basketball pretty damn well, right? Like, this is going back like 15, 16, 18 years. Anytime I met somebody who covered basketball for a living, even 18 years ago, 19 years ago, we're talking like half a lifetime ago. I was 18 myself 18 years ago. Even at 18, I could have a really, really good conversation with an NBA scout. No problem. I could have a good conversation with someone who talks on TV about sports all the time. And that we could reference shit, and I could maybe give them a couple of stats. But the truth is, I got real with myself earlier this year, and I was like, you know what? There's still so far to go. And I'll thank Brian for this one, because seeing how curious that dude is to learn has really motivated me to get just as curious. You know what I mean? So it got me thinking towards the beginning of this year, what if you approached basketball like cricket? Cricket, I don't know shit about cricket, right? So, like, if I were to like start watching cricket or start watching hockey, two sports that I've never really ever followed or had any interest in, I would approach it with the beginner's mindset. I would start like talking to people, get really curious about stuff. I would read more. So I wanted to take that same approach to basketball. I wanted to rethink basketball. I wanted to imagine that I didn't know anything about basketball, and I wanted to just go in fresh. And I think that that is really, really, really good. Tong, any chance you'd be doing more collaborative works with other YouTubers? Already am. Yeah, already am. And I'm sure you'll see the fruits of that pretty soon. But yes, we will definitely do that. Yeah. So anyways, I really wanted to get to a point where my basketball understanding basically jumped levels. I wanted to be able to do something really different and really unique and have that sort of insight where, okay, yeah, I know that I can go to a bar and wow people with my basketball knowledge. And I know that I could talk to, your favorite sportscaster and probably dance circles around them, or like a Will Liu. But that's not who I'm aiming at right now. I'm not taking aim at Will Liu. I'm taking aim at my heroes right now. I'm taking aim at like my favorite scouts and my favorite GMs, and I want to understand this sport the way they understand this sport. And then I want to take that knowledge and that brain and I want to put it in behind Penn basketball. And for me to do that properly, it's actually much, much more beneficial for me to watch these playoffs than it is for me to scout prospects. That doesn't mean that I haven't been scouting prospects. It doesn't mean that I'm not releasing a Bill Walton video tomorrow. It doesn't mean that I'm completely abandoning, the goal of this channel, which is to be about the Raptors. It just so happens that the version of me that shows up to training camp has to be a better version of me than the one that showed up to the previous training camp. This also means, by the way, becoming a better person. It means also learning to de-escalate situations. I realize, just to get a little, real with you guys as we hit the 1 hour mark here, I also realized that I have a little bit of anxiety about going up levels in life. I have so many sponsors that have reached out to me that are really big brands, and I just kind of leave them on a red, and I, maybe get back to them and be like, oh, let me think about it. And then I just don't go for it. There have been job opportunities in the last 15 years that I have not taken. There have been massive opportunities to move into different channels and to contribute to other things, or maybe write for a big outlet. And I'll always kind of hold myself back because I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to not lose my cool. I don't trust myself to, start fighting with somebody when I don't want to. Like, emotionally, I don't trust myself to hold it together sometimes. You know what I mean? And so I got to get to a point where I trust myself. And once I trust myself, then I can aim as high as I want to aim. And maybe where I want to really aim in my life, because I'm 36 years old right now, I got to start thinking about the next 10 years of my life. What do I really want to do? I really I would, I want to say it. I would love to be a general manager someday. I would love to do that. And while it's always been a joke in my friend circle of like, oh, this team should hire you, that team should hire you, I'm like, yo, what if I could really, really get to that point where I really do understand this sport and I understand it so well that really, like, I don't know, one of the best in the world? That would be great. So that would be good. I want to do that. Right. So, yeah, like Sam Presti. Okay, great. So, like, yeah, Sam Presti. Like, Sam Presti did not learn, he's a really smart person, first of all. Like, I remember him like 15 years ago, super smart guy, really big around the Boston area and stuff. And, like, really, it was 15, 18 years ago. Shit, like, it's a long time. And Kevin Pritchard is another example of just someone who I've been aware of for like the last 20 years and just seeing the pathway these people took. And it just gives me a notion of, I need to be a lot smarter. I need to be a lot more organized, and I have to be a lot more emotionally resolved, because, man, the number of people that I have met and the number of bridges that I have burned already, like, I'm 2 years into this. Well, really, I'm a lot longer than 2 years into this, but with Pinstripe Basketball, I'm 2 years into this. And already there's so many people out there that don't like me. And I don't mind if people don't like me because something I say pisses them off, but I do mind if people don't like me because something I'm doing is wrong. You know what I mean? And, maybe sometimes with the Fred and Pascal stuff, it got a little too personal. Then people start viewing you as unhinged. And now you got a reputation as being this unhinged hater. And it's just like, oh my God, you don't want everyone to be rooting for your downfall either. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be real, you want to be yourself, of course. And I'll never compromise that. But you also don't want every single person in the world to be rooting for you to fail. So anyways, all of this to say, I'm pursuing this. I'm watching every single game. I'm watching a lot of these games twice. I think I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about these players. And I do believe that this next year of Pinstar basketball, not only do I believe that the video quality will get better, because that's something I've been promising for a year and it really hasn't happened, but it should happen this year. I believe the quality of insights and the emotional maturity during these lives, the frequency of all of it, I think that'll be a lot better. And that is when Pinstar basketball can take that next step. You know what I mean? The next step is like to the level of a thinking basketball. You know what I mean? Like, where, yeah, I know some NBA players check out Pinstar basketball. I already know that, right? I already know some trainers check it out. I know some scouts that check it out. I've talked to some of these people, some high school coaches, college coaches, whatever. But I want to be like the go-to for all of them. I don't want just some of them. I want all of them. I want all of them to come and be like, Pinstar basketball just dropped this dope video on this particular blitz or this particular coverage. And I want to go check that out. So that's my goal. I want to take it to the next level. So anyways, we'll get to the draft coverage, but the quality of my draft analysis is only going to be as good as the quality of my understanding. So, using the playoffs are always a really good barometer for the draft. A lot of people, they focus on one or they focus on the other. Very few people have the capacity, time, or wherewithal to focus on both. But trust me, general managers and overall executive staffs are focusing on both how the playoffs go, i.e., what Derek Lively is doing, what Derek White is doing, not to just focus on the Dereks. How much Darius Garland struggled. These trends are going to carry forward. They're going to influence how people think about the draft, right? So it's a really important thing, right? Even like how you utilize your free agency dollars, right? So with the success that the Dallas Mavericks are having with Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, our centers back. Look at the 4 teams. Look at the 4 teams that made the conference finals, right? All of them have really competent centers. Miles Turner on one side, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis. Granted, Kristaps Porzingis didn't play on the other side, and then you have this team with Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, that big man duo, right? And then on the other hand, you have Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. And like typically, the thought process was you go big, you go home, right? But now you're getting bigger and bigger teams making it to the conference finals. And last year you had Jokic in the finals. If you ever manages to have a totally healthy playoffs, you might see Embiid in the finals one day. We had Brooke Lopez in the finals the previous year. And so the trend is sort of like going towards bigger teams. And so you might start to think, hey, how much does a player like Isaiah Hartenstein command in free agency because of the trend that we are on right now? Or does Jakob Poeltl suddenly have a little bit more trade value this offseason? Granted, he's not Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford, but he does some of the same stuff as those guys. He's a really good short roll passer. It doesn't seem obvious, but Jakob Poeltl, in theory, is a better player than both those players. Coming into this season, he was a better player than both those players, right? I mean, he may not be right now because he spent half the season on an injury reserve list, but he does a lot of the same stuff. He's not a shooting big. Neither of those guys shoot. And he dives to the basket, and he's a really good decision maker in the short roll. I mean, that's really the point, and he's a good paint protector. So, anyways, I do think that the Raptors content will come very soon. And the good thing is, once we get to the finals, which will hopefully be in 2 games, there's 2 days off between every single game. So it'll leave a lot more time. I'm not focusing on 2 different series, 4 different series, 8 different series, which I've been doing all year. All playoffs. And I hope y'all, if those of you who've been sticking with us during the playoffs know, I've covered pretty much like half the games at this point, which is really cool. And I've watched all the games, by the way. I've watched every single game. That has been super cool. It's a big bucket list thing for me. I don't think I've ever done it before. I don't think I've ever watched every single game. There's always like 1 or 2 series where I'm like, I'm not going to watch that series. I'll watch it if it hits a game 7. This time I was like, nope. Game 2, Cleveland, Orlando, I'm watching that. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And there was one game I think I missed. I went back and watched it. So, yeah, big bucket list moment for me. All righty. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one. And, yeah. Also, wait, why are people talking about Coloco? Okay. Also, Scotty Barnes just posted a picture of him on Twitter playing chess. Yes. My favorite player in the world is playing my favorite game on earth, which is chess, which is really cool. And Scotty is in Hong Kong or China right now. Really cool. All right. He's doing like some Nike thing. Good business sense. All right. Talk to y'all later. And I will see. Look out for the Bill Walton video tomorrow, and definitely go share that. It's a good one. It's a good video, and I think you're gonna find out a lot about Bill Walton that you probably didn't know. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.